past. I think some more people will join us as we go along, but for now, I just say hello to everybody that's joined so far. For those that don't know me, I'm Karen Longdon and I'm the Lead Development Manager for Food for Life Sustainable Catering team, and I'll be hosting the webinar today. We have got a couple of people with us. We've got Jeanette Ori, as ever, who I'll be handing over to shortly to give us a little bit of an update. And we're very pleased as well to say that we've got Julian Edwards here, who's going to talk to us about Natasha's Law, which is something that cropped up in our last support session. Julian's the CEO of Allergen Accreditation and the Managing Director of GY Food Service Consultancy Limited, who specialise in school meals. That's all I'm going to say about Julian, but I will let him introduce himself shortly when he comes on to talk to you. Just a few little housekeeping things. We've got, hopefully you can see me and you can hear me, and you'll be able to do the same with all of the speakers. We have got the function to bring you into chat if you've got any specific questions or anything like that, and there is a chat function, and we'll be monitoring the chat. So on the side of your thing you should have a little pop-out box, and you should be able to see the chat. So please do, we encourage you to sort of introduce yourself and say that you're here. That would be great. And if you've got any specific questions, you can put them in the chat and we will pick them up. At the end, you will get a short evaluation form to fill in. If I could ask you to fill it in, that's really helpful for us. For anybody that doesn't, you will get it emailed as well. But if you can just take, it's less than 5 minutes at the end, that would be really helpful. We do ask for questions beforehand, and the feedback that we got in the last one that we ran, the last support session, was that we didn't give enough notice of the questions. So I'm going to hand over to Jeanette in a little while, then we'll hand over to Julian, who'll talk about Natasha's Law. We've had one question already on that subject, around whether there'll be any support for small caterers, i.e. those that are in-house, with training or clarification on how this will impact their day-to-day running. And then other than Natasha's Law, we've had a couple of questions submitted. So I'm going to let you know what they are now so that you can have a think about your experience. So one of them is, coming back from lockdown, how are you promoting the need to get hot school meals back for everyone in the dining room? Or are you already doing this? And how's that going? And the other one is, do you feel safe going back to the kitchen? And do you feel that you've had enough support to do this? So those are the two or three questions that we've had submitted beforehand. And so if you want to sort of bear those in mind, and if you've got anything, you know, that any experience that you can share when we come to that later on in this hour, that would be great. Okay then, well, I'm going to shut up now for 5 minutes. I'm going to hand over to Jeanette, who's going to say hello and a little bit of a welcome. So yeah, please do use the chat function. And Jeanette, I'll hand over to you now. Thank you.
Okay, hi everybody, and great to see you again. I think these sessions are really important, and especially today that we've managed to get Julian to talk about Natasha's Law, and I hope you'll find that really interesting. I'm just going to give you a very quick round of what's happening in the policy world, which are the following. So yesterday I was on a call regarding a school food review, which certain charities, organisations have called for the government to do a school food review, and this has all come about because of COVID and the pandemic, and what happened, how many children got fed, how many didn't, you know, what was going off, schools shut, schools open, all what you guys had to go through, and obviously Marcus Rashford, the concerns regarding an access to good food. So that was a 2-hour session. Tomorrow we've got, or I've got, a School Food Plan Alliance meeting, And again, I'm really interested in this one, and we've managed to get a speaker from the Association of School and College Leaders, and this is about the impact of the 2020 October census on free school meals. Now, there's a guy who some of you will know, Andy Jolly, and he's done some absolutely fantastic work on this. He really has. He's a numbers guy, and some local authorities are going to be losing millions of pounds. So I want to know what the impact on children are going to be. What's the impact on the catering industry, if there is one? I don't know. So we'll be looking at that. We've also got somebody talking about the school food review, and we have got somebody else talking about food education onto the curriculum and what can we do. We still keep pushing this with Food for Life, and we have done for many years, as different organisations have again over the years. We've got somebody coming from the DofE, Department of Education. They're going to be talking about the National School Breakfast Programme, hopefully, what's happening there. There was a tender that finished on the 19th, so Wednesday, Monday. That's for 2 years, I believe, and it's for 23 million. So waiting to see what happens with that. We've also got the Holiday Activity Fund that they're going to talk about, and school food standards, the update. They've been parked, as we all know, but we want to know what is actually going to happen. And then there was also came out today, I believe, the EFRA report, and that is all about how we buy food for schools, hospitals, other public bodies, and how we can get that food more sustainable and how we can support local producers, which is great. For me, the greatest thing I heard and read this morning, actually, in the report, is that Food for Life served here, as mentioned, about 30 times. I think that's what I counted. So yeah, Food for Life has been really came to the fore on that one, and I think that's about it from me in regards to what's happening. It's still Zoom meetings, we're still not going anywhere, which I would love to get out and about and meet everybody, but unfortunately not at the minute. So back over to Karen.
Thanks, Jeanette. That's a really good update. I haven't seen any specific questions for you as yet. We have had some more people join, so welcome to them. Yeah, I will put the link to the EFRA report in the chat, so that you've got you can have a look at it. It's really interesting, and you'll find that on the Food for Life website as well. So it's worth having a look at that one. Yeah, I think what I'll do now is I will hand over to Julian, who and just to say that we are going to start recording the session. Just Julian's little bit. We try not to record these webinars because we're very much about really wanting to encourage people to talk freely without, you know, without thinking that it's going to be featured somewhere else. But we did think it was worth just recording this little bit, because it is important, and we've been asked quite a lot about it. So I hope that's all right with everybody. Yeah, so I'll hand over to Julian if that's okay, and we'll take questions through the chat and when Julian's finished talking as well.
Hi there, you can hear me okay, everybody? Excellent. Yeah, thanks for the introduction. We've got a rapido 15 minutes now, hopefully almost everything you need to know about Natasha's law, but certainly a good overview. So I'm just going to attempt to get my presentation up. Screen. And Here we go. Brilliant. Can you see that okay?
Yes, we can. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, okay, nice. Yeah, so I'm still a year of Zooming in Teams. I'm still quite the novice, so thank you. Okay, so 15 minutes on Natasha's Law in Food Service. So a very big welcome. I guess in summary, I've been involved in food service forever as a chef by trade, and my core business is consulting. So that's 99.9% in schools, primary and secondary. And I've spent the morning at a town hall somewhere in London developing yet another special diet plan. So it's very much integral to my anything with school meals. The Allergen process is very integral to everything. We've been involved with allergens probably about 30 years in terms of from a chef point of view, and obviously we looked at then creating the Allergen Accreditation scheme. So moving on, a brief history. So we're all familiar with the EU laws that came into force in 2014, and we should by now know what this all entails. So it's your 14 top European noted allergens that need to be available when a customer requests this sort of information from all caterers. So pinging this forward, nothing really happened with Brexit in terms of moving from the EU to UK legislation. I suspect because a lot of the brains behind allergen regulations came from this country, and therefore it's something that certainly the UK and Ireland have evolved quite dramatically. And it's comforting to know today that people do report that the catering industry has really risen to the challenge, and most premises now do operate to a good standard of allergen management. And ping forward to now, the Ppds regulations. So this is a bit of power of knowledge for you. And so why did the Ppds come about? Well, essentially, the Food Standards Agency engaged with a huge program of talking to hypersensitive customers and businesses and authorities and various groups. And this all sort of wrapped up into quite a substantial consultation that pretty much got constructed by March 2019. So it's been in the pipeline for some time. And what was interesting with this particular consultation is that there were something like 1,600 odd contributors, and these are people from around the UK and Ireland, all had an opportunity to basically input into Ppds and the shape and how that was formulated. Out of that number, only about 126 companies, caterers like you and I, contributed to it, so which is interesting. So some stats there. So there were 4 options. One was to promote best practice. 2 was to have one sticker for every Ppds item, a generic sticker that could have been easily available, which would have stated allergens, please ask. The third option was to have a label on all your Ppds with the allergens listed. And we were very keen on that one because that was something we set as a standard back in 2013. We always felt that for the grab and go culture, and then the fourth option was to list all ingredients. So, and then what happened with the consultation, the vast majority pretty much said, we want the full list of ingredients on our sandwiches, wraps, anything we see in a retail type setting, a grab and go setting, we want a full ingredient list. And the main driver for this was that more and more people are hypersensitive to other ingredients, not just the top protein. And anybody working in a school kitchen knows you're dealing with different ingredients all the time when they're presented as allergens because children are allergic to them. So that's basically the brief history of Ppds, Natasha's Law, and this is how it came about. So I'm sure you've all seen this, but a revised technical guide came out from the FSA in June last year, which does have a section on Ppds and pretty much how to do it. Now, before we start about Ppds, I think, like anything, it's a bit of an obstacle, but how can things be turned into an opportunity? and a lot of we're out there all the time. It's great we're back. We've not been in schools as much as normal for obvious reasons, but since September we have been undertaking allergen and COVID audits. Very, very flexible here. So we've had a great opportunity to talk to caterers and start preparing them for PPDS, etc. And of course, we've had conversations like, well, hang on now, what do you remember we moved from our open salad bar and decided for some reason to pop these salads and to ditch the self-help for possibly a lot of good reasons in terms of portion control, food safety, obviously. And the conversation in recent months has been, let's go back to salad bar. Interestingly, if you were thinking of that for your own operation, then with anything public facing, a salad bar, buffet, etc., you need to pass on a bit of responsibility to the customer. May not be as applicable in a primary setting where customers need to be assisted, but high school and beyond, having a sign on a salad bar which says, salad, you love salad, we love salad, worried about allergens and tolerances, please ask a member of staff. We'll prepare a salad for you in the kitchen, guaranteed no cross-contamination. So if you do anything public facing, think of additional signage. So anyway, thinking before we start, it's a case of what else can be served unwrapped. Now it's important that don't even think about trying to find a loophole to Natasha's law. It's not about that. Natasha's law and the allergen legislation are intended for two primary aims, and that's one, to protect the public, and two, to protect your business. But the discussions have been fascinating. It's a case of, hang on, what else is on our agenda? Because there's always something on the agenda, and Jeanette's already mentioned a few hot topics, but our blue planet, our corporate social responsibility, landfill, single-use plastics. We do use an awful lot of plastic and packaging in our operations. So it could be an opportunity if you'd ever think about that and perhaps think outside the box, or even could we ditch the box? Or certainly if grab and go is part of your model, and classically if you've got any kind of chiller display where essentially for speed of service, customer grabs an item to the till, pays, and off they go. And that's food and drink. This will require a label, and there's no avoiding that by the 1st of October. And I guess it's perhaps good sense to think 1st of September. Certainly in the education model, it's probably worth us thinking, let's get it all ready for the new term. So I'll do nitty gritty then. So we've got 3 label samples here. Number 1 is if you like the current label. So if you've got a sandwich on display in a chiller deck that's grab and go, you'll probably have at least the name of the sandwich and a use by date. So there's your minimum standard, if you like. These are homemade products, obviously. You're packaging them yourselves. So your minimum requirements is to have the name of the product and the use by date. And that extends up to the end of September this year. So there's a legal requirement. On the example there, number 1, you've got contains allergens, sweetened milk. That obviously, if you're allergen accredited, you would have already been putting your allergens onto a label. But your minimum is just the name of the product and the use by date. Bouncing to number 2, same sandwich. Now this is where I've baked my own bread. I've made my own pickle. Yes, pooped, maybe. So what I've done there is created a perfectly compliant PPDS label. So the PPDS label is the name of the product, and the first word is ingredients, and then in some kind of ascending order, the heaviest product, as you would when you create a normal recipe. The logic of descending order, not ascending order, beg your pardon. So you have all the ingredients, and then where you've got the allergen, then that's highlighted or emphasized. So it must be obvious on the label. And then finishing that label off then with a use by date. So that's perfectly compliant. Now, example number 3 is same thing, cheese and pickle sandwich. But what I've done there, I've bought the bread, I've bought the pickle. And immediately you see an awful lot of words, e-numbers. There's a lot more to this, isn't it? And I think this is potentially one of the challenges we'll have, is how to cross-reference that information from your loaf of bread and your jar of pickle onto your label, and doing that without making mistakes. So I think this is going to be quite a challenge, and certainly the trials we've been working on for a long time now. I'm not software savvy, never have been as a chef and caterer. I'm always reluctant there, but we've certainly looked at some software things now where you're importing information from Bid Food Break Brothers into your software. You do this when you're creating your allergen matrices. Having this formulated so it can fit into label size is perhaps the way ahead, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that in a sec. So some other considerations: font size needs to be a minimum, and it's quite clear there in terms of labels have to be seen. And I'm just wondering, actually, as if you've not already started, start the exercise of start thinking about what products do you package. What is in your normal service that you will need a label for ultimately. And the more you start now and start getting ahead of stuff, the better. But yeah, this is Tammy at Swanmore College in Hampshire, who's been working on PPDS for several months now. And this is a cheese and ham wrap. Underneath that giant label is a wrap, believe me. And at a glance, you can see there's quite a lot of, that's a sizable label on there. Substitute ingredients. Now, when you're doing your allergen matrices and you're checking and refreshing these daily, it's a common issue within allergen management in your kitchens if a substitute's been delivered that particular day. So in this case, if you're preparing labels in advance, possibly mass producing, it can be done if you're very regimented with your products, finding that a substitute ingredient is going to mean a change to that label completely, and it may not just be a change of allergen. It could be not completely different ingredients, but there's going to be a change there. So make sure you have all your product ingredient information to label. So we do have a labeling and PPDS guide that I'm sure we can circulate anytime with you all here today on how to do this. If I'm speeding through, everything I'm referencing is on there, so don't panic about it. I'm sure we could get something out to you soon as. But when you've prepared your products, you've got your coronation chicken, it's all prepared. It's boxed, it's in a Tupperware, it's in the fridge, it's got a label on today's coronation chicken. Then if Chef A is producing that, then Chef B is then you're going to use that for sandwiches. Then that Chef B needs to know the full ingredients of that product. Where's that been stored? Where's it been listed? To enable that person, if they're then responsible for actually producing the label. It's very important that all product information is available for that purpose. And just point of reference, if you consider your stores, you don't need a PPDS label on your products in the storeroom. So your PPDS label is your front of house, is your public, is your consumer facing end label. If you went to that extent, back of house labeling, that'd be pretty cool, but it's not certainly not a legal requirement, but the information needs to be there. So just like your allergen matrices, you need to check and double check. And if you're doing 20 different, or say 10 different lines, so sandwich lines, wrap line, drinks, smoothies, don't forget any prepared liquid items, hot food, hot soups, all these, it's all under one banner of food. You will need to check at least a sample of each batch, but the correct information is on there. So I think this is adding another tier of checking, but you will quickly get into a routine. And a comment we picked up before Christmas was a catering manager, again, not Tammy's, school in Hampshire, where, again, trying out PPDS, and she came to me and said, right, we've had a kid come up and say, Miss, we thought you made sandwiches fresh every day. And like you're buying them in because of the label, which is hilarious. And so if there is any room there, it's maybe made here fresh today. Or perhaps your label manufacturer, they can perhaps put a graphic which does suggest, you do make these yourselves fresh daily. It's a big arena, PPDS. We certainly were very keen to keep it as simple as possible, but as I've already alluded to, it was the overwhelming amount of people that took part into this consultation that said we want more information, because the majority of respondents in this consultation had evidence and they had experience of that either themselves or their children, tended to be themselves or their children, that were allergic to other foods. And we do know this in schools. it does sort of suggest that we do need to have more fingertip information about all our ingredients. So we're at a town hall today, somewhere in London, with a caterer, with a council, looking at the special diet plan for this term. Correspondence going out to parents in the next few weeks to start collecting special diet information. And the references were, well, we'll concentrate on the top protein allergens. That's all we need to do. That's our legal obligation. I said, well, actually, no, we're going to time out here. We need to take any information from a parent where their son or daughter is allergic to a particular item and treat that just the same. We may be coming up to our 15 minutes, and I'm sure you've got loads of questions. So I'll just wrap up by saying we are here. We're perhaps bigger in schools than anything else. We're up and down the country, and we do offer a full support. And we do have lots of free resources on special diet planning. We do have our resource pack 2021 was obviously full of everything you need to know on Ppds. And just whilst we're on, we do invite you all to talk to us. And if you wanted to explore what we do in any further, drop us an email or come to the team. I'm always happy to have a chat. And we do have a new self-assessment stage, which is an entry level of the accreditation scheme. It's very inexpensive. We do give you the free software to manage your allergens, recipes, nutrition, HACCP, costing modules. Something we worked on was due for launch last March, but it's sort of like, well, it got a bit of a blow with we know what, but that's still there. And a new plugin goes live in May, which means you can collect your information on allergens for your matrices, for your management controls, and for your labels. So if you want any more info on that, please do get in touch. That might be 15 minutes.
Lovely, thanks, Julian. I think you just about right there. We've had a couple of questions, comments on the chat. One is around, does this legislation apply across the UK? And if not, is similar legislation being implemented in the devolved nations? So I don't know whether you can answer that one.
That's an excellent question. The answer is yes. And Scotland were the slowest, not slowest. That was ratified in January this year. So Scotland, Northern Ireland, Wales, and England are all sharing this exact Ppds legislation. So Southern Ireland's a bit different. We do work there, and they have a slightly different, still part of the EU, obviously. But they have a slightly different accreditation scheme, which we do get involved with. But yeah, so it applies across the country.
Great stuff. And we've got a bit of a comment saying, as a primary setting, we're in a different situation to secondary grab and go. And as you say, our environmental health officer and trading standards have told us that we don't have to label any Ppds foods because it's packaged after it's ordered. I just wondered if you could just confirm that, and is that right? It seems to be some confusion.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you consider that the Allergen accreditation scheme, the Ppds guides that we do, everything we do is run by the Allergen department or the senior policy advisor in the Food Standards Agency. So everything we say and do is verified. And we had a big problem. It's spot on. There should be very little impact on the primary sector with Ppds. Secondary sector, anything grab and go, anything in the pot. So it's a bigger issue for secondary. But within primary, the big question we had, so we presented a scenario to the Food Standards Agency, which was, okay, we're in a primary school and it's 50 kids are going out on a day trip. So normally the kitchen will knock up a grab bag with a drink, piece of fruit, cake or cookie, a sandwich or a roll or a wrap. So within that bag, you could have, if you, for example, got a homemade cake and a sandwich, then these items will be wrapped for the right reasons. They'd be for hygiene purposes. Then they're put into one bag. So we did try and pester the FSA that if we had that scenario, they can be cling wrapped or inexpensive wrapping, not necessarily individually labelled, and then the bag could be labelled, or it could be this is for John, and a specific name bag, so there's no. The response to that was no. Any loose items going into your grab bag, Ppds, do need to be labelled, and they do need to be labelled correctly. But day to day within primary, some other examples are when you are If you're using any prepared cakes and jellies, puddings, anything of that nature, if you're think about your disposable element there. Anything prepared in advance on a dish that you're going to be recycling, a normal dish, non-disposable item, then that's just prepared and ready for service accordingly. Then it's selected and it's considered loose food because it's on an open plate or an open dish. But generally, it shouldn't affect primary unless you are going into. We have done this last summer. I mean, if you imagine now the scene with COVID last summer, an awful lot of our schools, yours included, would have done packed lunches for kids. That did work really well in the summer, and some of the elder kids quite liked it, carried on in September. So that was they're all prepared in advance before they're being sold. Therefore, they would qualify as PPDS. So, but when you get to that point, you've got to ask about how it's being ordered. How delicatessen are we? So if a student places an order in the morning, say I want a ham and cheese with pickle sandwich, it's prepared, it's bagged with a name on it, that's delicatessen services. But when you are producing en masse and then, again, it's easier to describe in a secondary school, it's in the chiller, that's classic PPDS. So there is a bit of ambiguity there, and but I say, I've mentioned our PPDS guide that there's a bit more information in there about that.
Great stuff. And we've I've just had another question in around I think there's some worry there that schools are starting buying in sandwiches rather than making them themselves to get around this. Are you hearing of that a lot, and can you see that having an impact on hours in the kitchen?
Yeah, absolutely. And let's be frank about this. We were doing a shortlist interview with caterers. There was 5 caterers. One of them was a very big national, one of the great caterers, and subject to PPDS. And it was, we got that covered. We're outsourcing, blanket outsourcing. So the sandwich manufacturing industry they're like this. They're rubbing their hands together because this could just be too complicated. But the conversations we have, I think of Food for Life first of all. MSc, the Good Egg Award, all this brilliant effort for us, scratch cooking, scratch baking, making our products, putting it together ourselves every day, should not be undone because too much good work has been done. Once you outsource to a third-party supplier, the more people handling your food, the greater the hygiene risk. Think of the listeria outbreak in the NHS about a year ago, and this was a third-party sandwich manufacturer. So you could lose your degree of hygiene control, and you will lose all that effort to make your own ingredients and fillings under your Food for Life banner, use of organic product. You could lose an awful lot of that. But yeah, unfortunately, this is my biggest fear that high schools particularly might say, well, we do 100 products a day. But to your question, if that were to result then in looking at we're going to save 5 hours a week, 5 hours a day out of the kitchen, then to me that would be the pain barrier. Now we've had these conversations with the FSA. The realities are that people could say, oh well, it's too much fuss, we're going to outsource this. And I say we do know of one of the large national contractors going down that route, which isn't good. So we'll have to bear that in mind. But so we need to sort of get to grips with this quickly so that we don't have to outsource our sandwiches for all the right reasons. We're school meals. We like to control all our ingredients through the chain as much as possible. So we need to just do our best on that.
Yeah, and I think we're coming back to the sort of packed lunch conversation we've just had. So if all the food's labelled for a particular child, and then allergy packed lunches would be separate and handed to that child, is that right? I think I've got that right. It's a comment that's coming on the back of the sort of packed lunch.
Yes, yeah. I mean, for any special diet children that's got their pre-prepared, then that will have clear details. Needs to have clear details on there that's been prepared for that particular individual. But the worry about PPDS is that if I assume the FSA would be quite happy with a paper bag filled with 3 or 4 items, and then just having one label on that, or if it's for a particular person. So technically, anything prepared in advance, that's not. It's about the order process. So technically, if I as a child came into school and I'm going on a day trip, and the catering manager was there in the morning, say hi, and say, what do you want to take in your package? I'd say, oh, I'll have a ham and cheese, I'll have crisps, I'll have anything you can check in there. If you're allowed chocolate, put it all in there. So that's a delicatessen transaction, but that doesn't happen in reality. They're all batch produced in the morning, ready to be, put on a bus, ready for a school trip to go out. So, by that nature, it is pre-prepared. But the allergen controls are, there's no change there. That needs to be as professional as possible. I don't know if that covers that question, Karen.
Okay then, I don't think we've got any other questions. We did get one about support for small caterers. I think you've covered the support that you offer, which is great, and it'd be great if you could put a link in. We're recording this, but if you could put a link in. Is there any other support available for small caterers, maybe?
Yeah, it's there. I mean, we're. I guess it's the. Well, it's all right. Here's some quick find out. Again, this I'll have to. If I could put a link up to our resource pack. So number one, there is a free platform of training. It's with the Food Standards Agency, so it's there. If you remember doing their online allergen training years ago, that's been updated and refreshed, and it's got a Ppds section. So it's on the FSA website. We've got a link on our resource pack to find it quite easy. So today you can get you and all your staff to do that course. That's number one. In terms of the technical guidance itself, again, it's all in our resource pack. If you'd have read this back in 2013, I guess 2014, it's a very similar version. But within there, you've got this PPDS with a narrative. So there's a document that's worth reading. So there's training. There's a document. Outside of that, then it's professional services. It's going to a training. We're delighted, actually. We just, in Jan and Feb, we trained 171 cooks in Kirklees, and we picked up 4th of Jan, finished up in May. And we're going back up there to Kirklees in June, July for 150 catering staff. So this is a level 2 Highfield qualification. And of course, all our trainings in September does have a section on PPDS. So it's all classroom training. So I guess there's a few free resources, the FSA book, which is easily accessible, and then the FSA free online training. Anything else then is something you're going to have to buy in either through us. If you look at the draft self-assessment scheme, we do have software links there that does cover everything. But that's a really good question. Part of the problem with any new legislation is what help is out there for small businesses. But what I would say to you is that we audit and review allergen policies from the smallest self-operating schools. I mentioned Tammy at Swanmore. She's been self-op now for 2 years. She's done all this herself with my help. She isn't an allergen accredited school. But what we find is that, and hence my meeting this morning with one of the very big companies, and of course I'm changing their allergen policy because it doesn't work for our parents. So it doesn't matter how big or small you are, you need to put a bit of time and effort into it, and it will come. If you have a 4 or 5 star attitude and good food safety culture in your kitchen, which you guys do, then the allergen element is just another, you can do that. You've got that covered.
Great stuff. And we've just had a comment from Sam Ward saying that their local EHO and trading standards were helpful and supportive and offered some free one-to-one support to them locally. So maybe that's a good point of call as well. And I'm assuming that once the legislation comes into law, that will be picked up in those inspections.
Yes, absolutely. That's a great point. Yeah, speak to your local environmental health department. They are there to help. There's been a lot of internal training. We've trained a few EHOs ourselves during lockdown. We turned a level 3 course into a virtual one. And it's kind of like a one-to-one, and you spread it over a few days. And so we did have a few EHOs on that, which was interesting. But yeah, that's all. Yeah, spot on. Another good resource point there would be your local authority.
Great stuff. I think we've come to the end of questions on that. Thanks so much for your time, Julian. I'm sure that any of the Oh no, we've got another one. Sorry.
You can come in.
We've just been asked, when should you be starting on this training and looking at menus? I mean, I'm guessing that as soon as possible if it's for September, but yeah, that's just the question that's come in.
Yeah, as soon as possible. It's worth doing it, get it tried out. But I think that the keys to success are, one, to think about what you do PPDS, and think obviously the autumn term, your autumn menu. What is it you do? Don't think about loopholes, how you can get away with it, but look at what your products are. What are you promoting? What can be served on a plate? Reduce your plastic. Think perhaps there's other attributes that you can other boxes you can tick by introducing less packaging. That's a good thing. And get started now. And the other bit of advice I would give you is that if you are looking at any sort of software systems, and there are lots, we review them all the time. If you are ever going to look at a software system that's cloud-based, not very jargony, but you've got to put in your recipe, your ingredients, perhaps importing then from Bidfood or Break Brothers and some of the wholesalers. So you're getting that data in, you're creating your allergen matrices and then ultimately your labels. If you're going to do that, then you want to type that recipe in once. Because I know the problem we've got with caterers is that you've done all this, you've put all your information recipes on an Excel or a Word document, you can print them off grid, and then someone else comes along and says, oh, we can do this fully automated, it's great. But you have to type that back in again. Typing stuff in is it's too much work. So, and I think it's fair to say that, and certainly the recent experiences on PPDS trials, they've all involved the business manager of the school or the IT guy. So it's a good time for heads of kitchens to say, have a chat with colleagues in school and say, we're going to need a bit of help with this, because they will have IT skills that people like me in a kitchen don't have.
Fantastic, thank you, Julian. So we've got about 15 minutes left of our time today. I hope you found that useful. I know I have. I'm going to bring Jeanette back in now as well. We've got a couple of questions that have been submitted, and we are trying to run these sort of webinar support sessions quite regularly. If you do think it's been really useful to hear about Natasha's law today, if there's anything that you think would be useful for our next one, or anything that you want to know more about, please do let us know and we'll try and sort that out for you. But we've got a couple of questions, and the first one is something that, while I've been talking to caterers over the last few weeks, it's something that it does seem to be a little bit of a worry, and it's around coming back from lockdown. How are you finding getting back to serving hot food for everybody in the dining room? Are you already doing this, or you know, are you promoting this? Are you getting pushback from schools? And some of the people that I've spoken to over the last few weeks are worried that some of the schools are really quite liking the food in the classroom, and they're going to get some, you know, caterers are getting pushback, and especially around the disposables. I know of a few you know, caterers that are stopping funding the disposables in the classrooms. So it's a question around that, really, just some advice about what everybody's doing. Jeanette, I don't know whether you want to come in on that one. And if anybody wants to say anything, there is sort of a hand raising function on the side of the chat. Do feel free to put your hand up if you want, if you feel comfortable enough to come in and share any of your experience. And I know Jeanette does sometimes pick on people, so, but I'll let Jeanette do that. And obviously there's a chat as well if you don't feel comfortable with that. All right, Jeanette, thank you. I'll hand that one over to you.
Okay, thanks, Karen. Well, I think actually I'm looking at the people who are on here, and so because nobody is putting their hands up, I am going to pick on, and I've come up with Libby Lewis. What are you doing, Libby? Are you there? Are you on mute? Are you here?
Libby's
Okay.
self-muted, it says.
Pardon?
Maybe it's on mute. So.
Okay, Kath Brecken.
Hi everyone.
Hi,
We're
Kath.
finding in some of our schools, a lot of our schools are still eating in bubbles. Some of
Hang
them
on,
are
Kath.
staggered.
Hang on, Kath. Just tell everybody where you're from, please.
Oh, hi, I'm from North Yorkshire. So I work for North Yorkshire Catering. We've got a lot of schools that are still eating in classroom bubbles, still staggered lunch times, staggered breaks. I spoke to one of our secondaries this morning and her break has now doubled in time, so she was finding it, her workload was a lot more, but she's managing, and that's how they're coping. We are finding that our staff, like any staff, are just getting on with it, and they're just rising to the challenge like we all do.
Okay, thank you. And Joanne Campbell from Rotherham.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi,
Hi.
Jo. What's happening in Rotherham?
Very similar to Kath, we've got exactly the same situation that a few schools have come back into the dining room, but mainly they're quite liking being in the classrooms, I think. We are going to withdraw the disposables from September or ask the schools to start to pay for the service because we know it's been a hell of an extra cost for us as a service to do disposables all over the borough. So yes, we're leaving it this term, but from September, if schools are not going back into the dining rooms, we are going to put a charge on for the additional cost. Yeah.
Okay.
The other thing is, funnily enough, it's probably quite someone might know the answer to this. We've had a special school that said that they can't mix the children from the 2-year group, from the upper schools and the lower schools together again in the dining rooms because they've not had guidance from the government. I don't know if anyone else knows if there's any guidance around over that. They've said that they can't put their children back into the hall together because they've not had guidance from the government to be able to do it. So I'm not sure if there is guidance. Yeah.
Okay, Jo. I know that exactly the person to ask. Tony Mulgrew from Ravenscliffe.
Hey.
Are you awake?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I thought I was having problems with my sound as per usual. As for serving within Halifax, West Yorkshire, we've been serving from the start of lockdown last year hot meals, and these have been transported into the classroom bubbles from day one. We intend to carry on doing that right up until July. September, as yet, hasn't been decided on whether students will come back into the dining room, taking into account our dining room's quite small, and our numbers do go up in September, so we may have to look at possibly 2 or 3 sittings and using classroom bubbles. So that's where we are at this present moment. But the kids are still enjoying hot meals, and of course, some of you may know I change my menu every term. And yes, there's a lot of work involved, but it's keeping those kids happy with the choices of food that we're offering them.
Do you know if there's any specific guidance around special schools, Tony, from the government around mixing different year groups?
We certainly haven't been mixing because, like everyone, there's been an awful lot of concern about the possibility of COVID being transmitted in between bubbles. But there has been occasions where, because of being in contact with someone that may have had symptoms, we've had to move staff around. Now, that has raised an awful lot of concern with staff themselves. And for this last 6 months, we are one of those schools that have been testing staff twice weekly, and we started testing our students at the start of the year as well, weekly as well. So if a member of our catering team, because we've got 2 sites, go down in either site, if we have to move a member of staff to that other team, we would leave them there for the full week so that they can do their weekly tests and, of course, their weekend test. Of course, they'll get the results within 20 minutes, and whether or not they'll be able to return back to that bubble for the following week.
But this is sorry, Tony, this is from your head teacher. This is not from the government, D of E. That's not what they're saying. This is what your governors and your head teacher are saying. Yeah?
Yes, yeah, because we were in the situation where we had very large numbers of highly vulnerable kids with medical grounds. So it was to protect not only staff and our more able students, but the most clinically vulnerable students. So this is why I think by the end of this month, all our staff will have had their second vaccination, and the testing will still carry on, and the students testing as well.
Okay, thanks. So, Joanna, to quickly answer your question, that I know that I'm sure, sorry, that there is a Q&A on the DofE website, and
Okay.
maybe that's something that you can go and ask that question.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you, Jeanette. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, lovely.
We'll do some digging as well to see if there's any. Sam just put a comment on again saying that they're still allowed to mix bubbles according to guidance. Going to the hall, they have to be in separate bubbles, and that's got to carry on until the summer, and then have 2 plans for September for full dining hall use and back to normal. So that's from Sam.
Okay, and Cheryl from Enfield, can you just say what's Enfield? You know, what are the schools doing there?
Hi, so I'm Cheryl. I'm from Enfield Catering, which is part of Enfield Council. My understanding on the special school question was that bubbles remain in place until the next update that we're expecting around the 17th of May, so we still can't mix bubbles. But in terms of what we're doing, we've got 70% of children still eating we've got 60% of children now eating in dining halls, 40 in classrooms. We've just launched our new full summer menu, so we've gone for a full menu that launched on Monday. And we're working with schools to rotate them, different classes coming into the dining halls on different days, and really working with the schools as a caterer, being more than just a caterer, about the social experiences that children are missing in terms of the types of foods, being able to support the salad bar, etc. So we have reintroduced salad bars in all of our schools as of Monday. It's working okay, but it's bumpy. But like the others, we are concerned of the schools that are enjoying in classroom dining, but what the children are missing out on is the social experience of eating, isn't it? It's not just about putting, I mean, we've had some concerns that schools have been putting news round on for some of the children and they've been eating. That's not part of a meal, is it? And part of that social experience. So yeah, we're you know, good work's happening with the schools, and we've been clear that from September we'd like to get back to full capacity in dining rooms. Some of our schools have purchased segregation screens, so we have got multiple year groups, multiple bubbles in the hall at the same time, because they've bought quite tall divides, so we are working around them, but it is a table service. The schools are supporting with teaching assistants, taking the meals to the children within their bubble at their table, so they're still not at the counter choosing.
Okay, thank you. It's great to hear you know, what other areas are doing. And I know that we've got, I'm hoping that we've still got somebody from CityServe, and I know we haven't got very long, but could the person from CityServe, can they tell us what's happening there in Birmingham? Are they
No.
on?
Just while we wait for that, Jeanette, we've got a comment from Ruth at St Mary's, who's been serving children hot meals through all the lockdown and schools opening to all pupils. And they serve all children in the dining halls, and they're using 2 halls, one for Key Stage 1 and one for Key Stage 2. And they're not mixing any kids with children. So yeah, that's from St Mary's.
Okay. Okay. Have we got anybody from CityServe? No? Okay, I'm going to quickly move on.
Hi, yeah, it's me. It's
Hi there.
hello.
Go for it.
Yeah, I'm from CityServe, Birmingham. Yeah, we're doing the similar stuff. It's the children are eating in their own in the classrooms because of the bubbles and that, and we're only serving only a couple of year groups are coming to the hall to eat, and we're sending trolleys to their classrooms with the hot food.
Okay, is this having an impact on your business as regards to, are you using plates to go to the classrooms, or are you having to use disposables?
No, we're doing it on plates.
Doing it on plates.
Serving on plates, yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Karen.
Yeah, thank you. Quite a bit of discussion then. We are quickly running out of time now. There was another question around feeling safe going back into the kitchen, and feeling that you've had enough support to be able to do this. Jeanette, I don't know whether we've just got a couple of minutes really, and then time's up, but you want to say something about that?
I think it's, yes, I mean, obviously it's really, really important that all the staff feel safe and they feel valued. They've worked damned hard over the past year, 18 months, and they will continue to do so, I'm sure. And certainly the people here at Food for Life are very, very grateful. I know that there is a list, and so I'm just very quickly going to ask if people could, and I don't know if this will work, can people raise a hand if they feel as though they're being supported? Is that possible?
It should be. If anybody clicks the little hand button, nobody feels like they're being supported yet. Nobody's put the hand up to that.
Can we raise a hand? Does that work? If not, can you let us know how you feel?
Oh, there's 7 hands up now, apparently. I can't see them, but there are 7 hands up. So that's good.
That's good. That's
seven
good.
7 out of 22, yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's really good.
Maybe we can pick that up on the next yeah. Session, Jeanette.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So that's kind of time up for today, but you will get an evaluation, literally 2 minutes to fill it in, just a quick form. If you could fill it in, it's really helpful for us. And we will be running another one of these in between 4 and 6 weeks. So if you've got anything that you'd like us to cover, you know, or you've got any feedback on whether you think that we could do something differently, yeah, please feel free to let us know. And yeah, I think that's it. So thank you to Julian and to Jeanette, and for all of you for joining, and hopefully we'll see you all soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.